So here's the homepage of the site. We can see that it's a GitHub site, which means the code on it must be public and in some kind of repository. So if we go to, if we change this URL up a bit, we get to the repository page for the website. And if we click that, we can see here that we have a description, we have a message which is basically just confirming that this this public key belongs to Aaron. And we can see we have some files here. We have 404.html, which is an 404 error page. We have 404.ico, which is just the icon for that page that appears up here. We have favicon, which is just the other icon that appears on the main page. We have the readme, which is just this. If we open that, we can see there's nothing really suspicious going on in there. Even if we view raw to see if there's any comments. There you go. You have the index.html, you have this newspaper file, and you have these two QR codes. So the index.html is clearly just the code for the main page here. And we'll get back to that later. Here's a newspaper file. This is quite odd, but if we just simply flip this image and reverse Google's image searcher, we can see that it's a red herring because there's an exact copy of this newspaper uploaded several years ago on a different website, so there can't be anything hidden in there. I did check with a tool to see if there's any text hidden in there or anything, but there wasn't. This QR code is just the main site QR code, and this is a separate QR code which we'll get into later. Let's look through them and see if we can find anything. So back on the main page we see this QR code, a description, and some Morse code. This is a challenge for all you hackers and code breakers. If you crack all the problems found here, you will gain access to this address. And underneath that you can see some Morse code. We can just paste this obvious Morse code into a Morse to ASCII converter and we get the value password123. If we take a look back at our QR code on the main page, you'll see that it decodes to the value, hello, you found the first part of this puzzle. All the parts you will find add together to form a private key. The number before them tells you which part is which. We are also given the first part of the private key. If we look at the public key, we can tell it's not a usual public key. It's prefixed with grlc hunt, and as a result we know that it's a vanity gen private key. Vanity gen private keys are always 51 characters in length, and we know that the first part is 10 characters long, so if we split the rest up into 10 character segments, we get 4 parts of 10 characters length and 1 part of 11 characters length. So we know there are 5 parts in total. Now let's look at our index.html file. We can see that it's just the code for the main page. We can see the text there and the Morse code down there to confirm this. But if we look up, there's a font called simply Garlicoin, and there is a weird tag here. It says base64 followed by a value, which we know to be base64. So if we run a default JavaScript converter to convert base64 to ASCII, we get the second part of our private key. Now if we look at these two QR code files, if we open the first one, we can see that it's simply just the QR code from the main page. Whereas if we look at the second one, it's this new hidden file with 2 QR codes on it. So I split the QR code into 2 files, this one to try read the background image, and when I decoded that it said no barcode found. And then this is the foreground image on the iPhone. And you can see when this gets scanned it says this is only half the picture, there is more to be found here. So image stenography is the art of hiding messages in an image. So I downloaded a stenography tool, and you can see that it did find some ASCII hidden inside one of the parts of the image. And that gives us our third part. So if we look at this 404 page, you can tell that it's not the default GitHub page, and there's some text down here saying stuff about hidden files, and then it gives us 2 values here. If we compare this to the real GitHub page, you can see it's quite different. So we get these 2 values. Is that value base64? well, you can see that it's either encrypted or it isn't base 64. And what is the second value? If we Google it, we can see that it's actually an MD5 hash for the value triple des. Triple des, if we Google that, it's an encryption algorithm. And so we get the value triple des, and then we get this second value, we don't know what it is. So if we try to decode this value using triple des, it says we need a key to do so. So if we remember before, we have this key password 123. So let's try use that. And as you can see, it's successful and it returns us this value. Now I was stuck for a while because this isn't like the rest, but it turns out it's just fifth key in reverse. So we have one key left. At this point I got a message asking me how many parts there are in total, and some guy said he had part number 4. I told him I'll tell him 5 if he tells me 4. And then he gives me this value. This finalizes our key, but it's incorrect. So I knew he was lying, so I replied back saying that I'd somehow verified it to be invalid. He never did show me part 4, so I had to find it myself. If we go back to the index file, we can see there's a jQuery library being imported, but this isn't the normal jQuery library URL that you'd normally use. This is different, it's quite different, and it leads to a page that shows obfuscated JavaScript. And there's a function there called tell me the secret ingredient. So if you run this JavaScript in the console, and then run the function tell me the secret ingredient, you get a value in base 64. So now if we just decode this value, we can see that we get the final part 4. And you can see he was quite clever, he changed some of the characters to make it seem similar. So there we go, that's all the characters. Thanks for watching. There you go. I got 18 garlic in the end, which is about not many dollars.